Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, today we are going to be layering up different pastes. Now, this does not have to be what you have. You don't have to have exactly what I have or the paste that I have. It's just about layering up some pastes together and having a little bit of fun with this technique. Now, because we are going to be using some texture paste, I'm going to be using some stencils. I have picked out a couple to create a couple of cards with you today. On the left is the Gina Foliage. This is one of my favorites. It's had a hard life in my craft space, but that makes it all the more better. And the one on the right, which we'll do after this, is the Brutus Monroe Build a Butterfly. Again, it's an old one, but it looks like it's still available, so it will be linked down below for you. I'm going to be doing this on some purple cardstock. This is the Plum Punch, which is a brand new cardstock for me, but I quite like this color. And actually, I'm going to like it even better after we put this on because this is striking results. Now, you don't need these stencils at all. Whatever stencils you got, I was going for one that had more of a focal point on it or something that wasn't just like an all-over generic pattern. So anything with foliage or leaves or flowers or something like that would be great if you're using this sort of style. Now I'm going to be using the Ranger Opaque Matte Texture Paste. You could have a go with several different, whether it be crackle, whether it be a transparent. There's lots of different types out there that you could give a go. I am going to be going in just a couple of different places. I don't have a very good plan at the moment, but I know for this whole video, I want to overlap and I want to layer up different pastes. So that's my plan. Although I'm not going to lie, I think that this purple card could be turned into a card alone with how striking this white texture paste is. Now, because obviously the texture paste needs time to dry, I'm going to be flipping between the two cards. So I'm moving on to some mint cardstock, and this is the Brutus Monroe Build a Butterfly. Now, again, you don't have to have these ones. I'm just showing you some examples. This one here is going to be the same texture paste that I used before, and we are going to use this as a base, but add some color. So I'm going to be taking this beautiful, it's quite a dark, I think this is the dark spruce maybe color, and we are going to be using this to color the texture paste. Now you absolutely can drop in a little bit of re-inker, you can just smush your ink pad like I did, you can even add in like a little bit of acrylic paint. Have fun with coloring up your texture paste, and this is why I usually prefer a plain white texture paste. Then if you have space for all of the colors and things, there are some beautiful ones out there, but mainly for space saving reasons I tend to just get the white paste, and then if I want specialty ones like golds and silvers, then those I do purchase. But as for coloring, I find I can color my own pretty well. Sometimes there's really fun ones out there that have different types of glitter and different elements in them, or glass beads, or things like that that are fun that aren't so easy to make yourself. But when it comes to coloring in especially opaque ones, then it's very, very easy, just as long as it's not too liquidy, because this is quite a solid paste, which I actually like about it. So we are going to use this to color up the butterflies, and now this is the base layer, as you'll see in the stencil. However, I decided to have 3 different colored butterflies, so I'm going to add in some more of that ink, and then I want just a slightly darker version. So basically just more concentrated, a bit more ink. I'm still able to do that without losing the good consistency of the texture paste. And I did wipe off the stencil in between each one just because I didn't want any transfer or smushing or anything underneath to go wrong. So I did end up giving it a little wipe off in between, or just give it some spritz with water and then some handy towel or paper towel or something like that. And then up the top I'm going to do an even lighter version with just a little little bit less ink as well. And this is going to create my base. Now, if you want to, you can dry these lightly with your heat gun, and that is how I am able to put my stencil on top of those other ones. It's not completely dry. I wouldn't be putting it through the mail yet, and I wouldn't be, pressing too hard into it with anything sharp or, anything like that, but I can just sit the stencil on top gently and know that it is going to be okay. Now, I leave in the ups and the downs of these videos, and it's all about experimenting. As I have mentioned before, I definitely don't make any of these cards before what you see on screen. I don't trial them, I don't test them out. This is just me card making, and I film it, and hopefully it's useful and you find some tips and tricks and new techniques that you can try out. So something new to me is the Gina K Rise and Shine. Now this comes in, I feel like a few colors, but I could only stretch for the gold and the silver. This is, again, this was new to me. I knew I loved the color of this. The consistency is more like a very softened butter. So much softer than the texture paste that I was using. And I think this would be good for lots of techniques, but this layering one, I did have to make sure not to come back over it too many times. So here I probably go over a little too much, and I don't get the most crisp results for one of those leaves. Now that is user error, and also you can't expect something from the product that isn't reasonable, and so I think that was how I did it, and so here I'm learning a little bit more. I want to make sure that I am overlapping the white and the gold. Again, I wanted to go with fairly neutral colors that were just going to pop off of this purple plum color. And I love that they overlap just a little bit, but I also love that there's still individual pieces there too. Now, I definitely learned, and you can see that those second two stencilings are significantly better than my first. But again, it's all about trial and error. Now, again, this is where I'm going to leave in my mistakes and show you that this really didn't work out well. So I do love the stencil because it does build texture and really fun dimension for these butterflies, but I do this one wing over here and I do the other wing, and then when I take the stencil off, you tell me why one wing is utterly perfect and the other is a hot mess. So I thought I had even pressure and it was all good to go. Anyhow, as I mentioned, this is not perfectly dry because I am relatively impatient, and so I decided to scrape it off here. I have to be a bit gentle not to ruin the butterfly underneath, and I'm like, I'll give this another go. It's okay. So I've just got the one wing to do because, as I said, the other one worked out absolutely perfect. I'm trying to support the stencil as much as possible, and I get a relatively good result. Not utterly perfect, but is anyone going to notice? I don't think so. And then I'm going to do the same. So for this one, I'm layering up the white on top of the colors that we created. And what would be fun if you didn't have, if you just had a butterfly stencil that was completely open, like the very first one that I did for these butterflies, you can hold a second stencil on top of the butterfly stencil, and that's how you could get pattern on top of your butterfly. It absolutely doesn't have to be with this kind of stencil if you're wanting to do that. So just another option, and then I'm going to put these aside and see if I can get them a little bit drier before I go ahead and do some trimming and turning these both into cards. I did use my heat gun a little bit. You've got to be a little bit careful that it doesn't bubble up any of your texture paste, but I was able to, I wouldn't say this is 100% dry when I'm doing it, but it's drier. So I'm going to trim these down. This is my Spellbinders trimmer, and I absolutely love this. It cuts through these 2 layers of texture paste like butter. So I love that. I then decide to round a couple of the corners. These cards are going to be not too much more happening behind with these. I like to keep this relatively straightforward. The focus is on those gorgeous butterflies. I do have some matte gold cardstock. I'm going to round the corners again and layer this up just for that element of shine. when I am adhering onto some slick cardstock, such as gold or silver or something along those lines, foil type cardstocks, then I'm always going to use dry adhesive. I just find that I get much better adhesion. And then when I'm putting this one down onto the paper, I can use some liquid glue so that I can move it around. And this is just going onto a standard 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card base with those 2 rounded corners. I think this looks really nice. To go with the gold, I'm going to use some Katy Sue Wavy birthday banners. Now, I had the Thinking of You version of these for a couple of years ago. I purchased them and I'm still using them up, but I do really reach for them. So I decided to finally go ahead and get the birthday ones now that I know I like the product. And so I am happy with these. It makes for a nice, quick, easy addition to a birthday card. Then I'm going to take some of that medium spruce and do some little dots. Now this is essentially controlled splatter. You can do this with a pen, like if you have a pen of a similar color. This one here is a little ball stylus, and so I can, if I want small splatter, then I just do a direct up and down motion. But if I want it to be a little bit larger, then I place it down and then I roll it around a little bit before bringing it up off the paper, and that gives me different sized splatter, so to speak, by just using the one ball stylus. And then I use some little clear Hero Hues enamel dots just to create the insides of the butterflies, and this one is finished. Nice and easy and fun of layering up. And then this one here, I'm going to do onto the gold as well. I also have the gold that I have used in the actual focal points here around the edge, and I like this. I'm going to carry this on. I am using some double-sided tape, so I'm being very careful to make sure that I get this perfectly lined up before I let go of it. And then again, I'm just going to use one of those gorgeous little banners to finish this off and down onto my regular sized card base. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you give it a go and it has inspired you to layer up some of your texture pastes. It doesn't matter what you've got. It doesn't matter if you make your own. It doesn't matter if you add colors. It doesn't matter if you stay white. You might like to do some sort of white on white texture. If you've got any ideas that you'd like me to try, then you are welcome to pop them in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel, or you can go over to my website and go and see a whole lot more exclusive content that I have. That is at natashafootecreative.com, and you can head on over there. There's lots of freebies and downloads, and also lots more videos. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.